Well, good morning. I think it's just yourself on the Zoom call today, Gary. Good to see you.
Good morning, Alex. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yeah, you well?
Lovely.
Welcome.
So, who's Steve's autopilot? Is that someone?
I think that's one of these AI note takers, so it'll probably record the session. He'll catch up at slow time with that one. But yeah, welcome, Gary. So good to have you with us. Otherwise, it's a bit lonely on my own, just presenting to camera. But
would you be happy if I gave you some thought on how you might get more people on board and other things to do with it?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
In no particular order, I'd forgot it was Tuesday. In my mind, it was Thursdays. I looked on my phone today, and at 8 o'clock, he'd sent an invite saying today. So I thought, yeah, I'll do that. I haven't had any prior invites to say it's coming up. So it's on the day. Your system's sending it out on the day, which is good.
Yeah,
so if it's dropping into other people's boxes at 8 o'clock and not sort of forewarning it.
Sure. So I normally do a day before to emails, and then I do a 1 hour to go.
Yeah.
And I used to do a 15-minute before it kicks off, just as a reminder. But I dropped the 15 minutes because I thought that was pestering people a little bit too much. But
I agree. I had nothing for the day before, so the system, certainly for my inbox, and it could be. I always work on the basis if it happens to somebody, it's possibly doing the same somewhere else.
Yeah.
Therefore, you could be missing people because they've not got the advanced warning, on the list. The other one that's interesting is I've been to 2, which have been great, and then I get an email saying, sorry, I missed you, didn't come. And the one I didn't come to said, thank you for attending. So your system's got a loop the wrong way around.
I need to address that, because normally I basically have a 2-hour window to mark the attendees of the event. So it could just be that I've not marked you as an attendee.
Okay. That's all right. I just thought, because a lot of people don't bother to let people know. And, I thought maybe you're relying on the AI bit to do it for you, and it wasn't.
No. Unfortunately, that's a human thing. That's probably me just getting stuck into meetings after the masterclass. But here you are. Good to see you, Martin. Thanks for joining us as well, Martin. Today, we're talking about LinkedIn newsletters and blogs on kind of websites. So that's the focus for today. We've got a little bit of an agenda we're going to run through. This is part of a 13-week program where we explore all sorts of different lead generation techniques and things. And we're currently at week 11, and we have 2 more weeks, and then we restart the cycle again. And so this week focus is kind of LinkedIn blogs and newsletters. So we're going to discuss how blogs and newsletters can be a really powerful tool for generating leads and how they can be used in conjunction with LinkedIn to really increase the reach of your content. We'll start by discussing how to create a blog strategy that's going to align with your business goals, choosing that target audience. We'll uncover topics such as choosing the right topics, using SEO best practices, promoting your blog through various channels and getting it distributed. Next, we're going to dive into key elements of a successful newsletter, including subject lines, content structure, calls to actions, and how to explore to segment your audience and tailor your newsletter to their interests and needs. We'll then have a little section where we're going to share top tips, best practices for promoting it on LinkedIn. I'll even do a walkthrough of how to do that on LinkedIn if you've not seen LinkedIn newsletters before. Different types of LinkedIn posts, how to use hashtags effectively. So we've really got a lot of ground to cover. Finally, we'll open the floor with some Q&As at the very end, and that will give you an opportunity to ask any questions you might have. So let's get started. Quick introduction from myself. My name's Alex, your host today, founder of Leadeth. So Leadeth is simply a powerful LinkedIn lead generation agency. We exist to support small business owners to achieve their sales goals through automating what they're doing on LinkedIn. And I'll just put it into context. I always bring up this is the classic marketing methodology starts at the top there. Water flows down the funnel. We have awareness, interest, consider, purchase, and retention when they become loyal customers. And what we're focused on tends to be the kind of top end of that funnel. And newsletters are really good for, driving awareness of kind of what you're about, and also interest as well, because that can hook people in, hook people on a regular occurrence as well. The modern equivalent of this funnel effect is called the flywheel effect, and that's bit of a methodology where it kind of, you attract new clients, you engage with them, you delight them, they then become advocates. So they kind of fill the top of your funnel by letting you know of new clients and referrals and other people. So it kind of creates this full circle, which is quite nice if you master it well. The Leadeth journey. So we're taking clients from who are struggling to get any sales on LinkedIn to having more time and more sales through LinkedIn. And we do it through a 6-step process. We identify the target audience. We prime the LinkedIn profile to make sure it's speaking clearly to that audience. We then have an outreach automation software tool that basically supercharges your relationships on LinkedIn through automation. The natural follow-up step is an email piece, which comes in step 4. We then also look at content marketing, how we can produce content. So not just having an outbound strategy, but also having an inbound strategy where we're attracting leads from content that we're producing. And step 6 is all about bringing that together with CRM systems, making sure all those leads are getting dealt with efficiently, people are getting the reminders and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the Leadeth roadmap. Let's start with a stat. 13% of people are more likely to achieve a positive ROI on their marketing efforts if they adopt blogs and newsletters. So that's a stat there. I think it came from HubSpot, possibly that one. So whether you're new to blogging or newsletters, or looking to take your current, your next newsletter, you're currently producing a series of newsletters and you're thinking about your next one, we'll cover a lot of strategies here and tactics that you need to know to kind of leverage these powerful tools for lead generation and ultimately growth of your business. So let's get started. It all starts with kind of building this sort of strategy, and it's important to think about blogs and newsletters as a lead generation tool. That's what they are ultimately. So let's dive into this blog strategy in a little bit more detail, and we're going to look at how it can align with your business goals. And obviously, a well-executed blog strategy is going to help you to position your brand as a thought leader in your industry space where you're hanging out. So that's going to drive traffic ultimately to your website and ultimately generate you more leads. So the first step when building a successful blog strategy is choosing the right topics. You're going to want to create content that's super relevant and valuable to your target audience. So also, whilst you're kind of aligning with your business objectives, a great way to start is to do some research. So conducting some research into, what it is that your target audience are searching for. What are the typical topics that may be trending in your industry? You can use tools like Google Trends or BuzzSumo. These are popular places where you can find what's trending currently for your industry. If you just look up Google Trends, that will give you a history of 10 years of that specific keyword and where it's been tracking, where it's trending currently. Once you've chosen those right topics, it's important to then optimize your blogs for search engines to make sure they get found. And this is all about using the right sorts of keywords strategically throughout your content. And when we talk about keywords, it's not just the one word, it's also the long tail keywords, the phrases, the 3 words, the 4 words together that form this unique search term. Also within blogs on websites, you can think about metadata descriptions and headings, and these are the way you format your blog, and we'll run into that in a bit later. That's also quite important. You want to make sure your website is really super optimized for mobile devices. So whenever you create a blog, wherever you create that blog, make sure it reads well on a mobile phone once you've published it, because more and more people these days are obviously accessing that data, that information via smartphones. Finally, it's also important to promote your blog through the various channels, and that helps you to get that wider reach. So that can include sharing the posts on your social media, whichever, whether that's LinkedIn, and we'll look at that later today in terms of LinkedIn newsletters. But if you've got email marketing databases, you can push that blog out to your email channels as well. So all these different places where that bit of content can be used. So think about where it's going to, the distribution of that. Hopefully that will increase your influence in your industry and help you to start to build those relationships. So in summary, when we think about this blog strategy, it comes down to the right topics, and then just using the best practices, and then the distribution has to be where we want to push that blog to. I watched a really good video the other day. It was a guy explaining, what gets you up in the morning, what drives your interest and sparks, what are you really good at that you can do and talk about in your sleep. I know certain things, like for you, Gary, the Belbin stuff and the personality types and all that stuff, that just comes to you so naturally. So that is probably a great topic for you to kind of speak on and kind of explore a bit further. So it's kind of looking at, where does that kick in with what people want to know, or where's their lack of understanding? And then you've got to draw this bridge on how you can kind of link the two together. But yeah, certainly have a look at what competitors are up to. That's always a good idea. Just keep an eye on your competitors, just see where they're at in this space. So when we want to create some really engaging newsletters, we need to think about a newsletter as a way of keeping in touch with your audience. It's another touch point. So that valuable content is really going to help them. It's going to help you to stand out. So let's dive into what we could do with these newsletters. So the key elements, I've kind of stripped this back to some simple basics. The first thing when considering to create that newsletter is obviously the subject line. The subject line is kind of one of the most important things. That's going to what hooks them in, what drives them in to kind of read it. We then need to think about the content structure, and then also we need to think about the call to action. So a good subject line, it's got to grab that reader's attention and entice them to open the email. And these days with tools like AI writers, like ChatGPT, they've been trained up on the best types of words to use for that specific industry. So it can really suggest some really good ideas for you if you're struggling for kind of ideas for subject lines. Having the content structure quite clear, so clear headings throughout, and then call to actions throughout the newsletter, that's going to really help drive people to the next thing. What is it you want them to do next? It's no good just putting a newsletter out there and not having a call to action. It's kind of just a bit of nice reading. It's kind of just wasting people's time. We need to drive them into the next step with you. So what does that next step look like? Have a think about that and where you can start to include those hyperlinks to drive people to that next step. Segmenting the audience is also really helpful. Probably something that kicks in once you've got a slightly larger database of prospects and you start to understand their different needs and interests, and you can actually start to tailor the newsletter to that different sector of people. Certainly if you've got you're using email software that tracks the number of opens or the number of link clicks, that is also helping you, because then you can segment on the people that have actually gone to that call to action, gone to that next step. And if you've got several call to actions in a newsletter and you're noticing that a certain group of people are all going to that specific call to action, then you can create a follow-up piece a day later, which is all related to that specific call to action or the next step. And that's going to help them on their journey and drive them a bit further. So once you've kind of segmented the audience, it's really important to then kind of tailor that content to their specific interests and their needs. And that might be thinking about the different types of content. So maybe an article is great, and maybe a video might work better for that specific audience, or it could be an infographic, whatever you think your audience will respond to the best. And when you start doing this on a routine with a rhythm, that's going to give you the data that you need to kind of look back and see what's working well and what's not. So focus on those key elements. Remember, a really good subject line, the content structure, and then a good call to action. And then you can't go too far wrong with that. The next part of this, obviously in today's digital world, social media platforms are an essential tool for businesses to promote what they do and their content to reach a really wider audience. LinkedIn has been my chosen network. It's great. It's basically a B2B space, so business to business. With over 700 million users now worldwide, it's probably the best platform to kind of get the reach that you need. So when promoting blogs or newsletters on LinkedIn, it's important to keep in mind maybe the different types of posts available. So you can actually share lots of updates, articles, images, videos, and you can actually post all those different types of contents within a LinkedIn newsletter. Another important aspect of promoting content via LinkedIn is using what we call hashtags, because hashtags can start to link all the information you're talking about together. So hashtags obviously use the hash sign, have a keyword there. So for me, I might use something like lead generation as a hashtag. So anybody that searches for that hashtag lead generation, that's going to help my blog to be found.
Right. Sorry to interrupt. I think I read somewhere in the last 3 or 4 weeks that LinkedIn are getting rid of hashtags.
Really? Wow.
There's a guy, Nigel Cliff, who's a sort of LinkedIn expert up north, up in Manchester. He was having a good rant about the hashtags being removed.
Oh, right.
So it might be that they're doing
Watch
something.
this space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've not seen that in any of my news feeds or anything. But
I'll try and find the stuff he put out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good to have a look at that. Do feel free to share it on LinkedIn or copy me in or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So engaging with our audience through comments after the newsletter's been put out and sharing that content to other people, tagging people in is going to really help to show you care about that audience. You've got to take time to comment and share on these on this content that you're putting out there. And it's a good indication of whether the content's actually valuable to that audience as well. So responding to those comments is really helpful. It does take time, but you can use AI to kind of speed that up a little bit. But ultimately, that's going to kind of help you to understand, is the content right for the audience? So finally, think about leveraging LinkedIn's advertising tools. So LinkedIn has a lot of tools in terms of pay-per-click and sponsored content to promote your content a bit further. There's also in-mails, what's called sponsored in-mails. So these are like paid content that go directly to your inbox through LinkedIn. It's very pricey. I've experimented with LinkedIn ads and not achieved a really good ROI, but certain in terms of awareness at the top of the funnel stuff, it could be good for that. So there's some quick tips in terms of newsletters. The next kind of thing we need to think about is measuring and optimizing your results. And thankfully, LinkedIn kind of produces us some really good options and things. So I'm going to just dive into the LinkedIn platform. So for me, I pushed a LinkedIn newsletter out a couple of months ago. I kind of got a bit slack. I did 2, and then I got a bit lazy with it. I need to get back into it. It's the classic thing that everyone does. They kind of get super infused by the whole thing, write 2, and then it fizzles out. So when you come into LinkedIn, you can actually click write an article, and that write an article option. So to send a newsletter, you have to have a LinkedIn creator mode turned on, and then you can post to a newsletter and create those newsletters to an audience. So if we just click get started, we can see up here, this is kind of like much more detailed than creating just a LinkedIn post. It gives us the ability to put in a big title. We can choose a beautiful image, and then we can also start writing the body of the text here. And we can also use some of the elements here, like a bulleted list of numbers, and really make it stand out a little bit more, put further images in. So it helps us to do a lot more with that article. So it's a juicy piece. And we recommend around about 1,500 words for that kind of LinkedIn format. But the beauty is you can basically set it as an individual article, or you can link it to part of a newsletter. And part of the newsletter is where people can receive them one after another as part of a series. So that's how a newsletter works. So I've actually created one. For me, mine talks about my personal faith journey and my journey in business. So it's very much a very basic thing, but I managed to get 1,000 subscribers just off the back of releasing my first one about 2 or 3 months ago when I started it. It's something that I've not really nurtured though, so I need to keep going back on this, look each month at what's happened, and put a new one out there. But I published the first one was just a story, a bit about me. But yeah, it received 23 bits of engagement, 6 comments, and the subscriber count went up. So every time you put a new post out, that'll obviously encourage more subscribers automatically. And when you click on that subscriber list, you can see who all those guys are. And interestingly, some will be second degree connections. And you might even get some third degree people who are choosing to kind of tune into you. So it's a bit like following someone without actually connecting to them. So the newsletter feature is really good. So I probably should do a newsletter focused on lead gen and LinkedIn, because that's kind of what I can talk about quite easily as well. But I've not had the time to kind of create that bit of content yet. But that's how I've kind of approached it. Martin, have you done any newsletters yet in with what you're doing?
No. I when I first started doing what I'm doing, I did a newsletter out to an email list, but not through LinkedIn.
Sure. And Gary, have you where are you at with newsletters, or have you?
I'm a long way off doing that, but I do need to. I think I use the phrase "pull my finger out" and do some proper follow-up marketing, you name it. I've been very lazy this year. I had a good year last year, but this year I've done very little. And I've been thinking about not working on sorting out my website. That hasn't been working for a while. So, as I said before, sure. Alex, you're giving me the nudge that I need. Thank you.
A bit of accountability. Yeah, it's setting those tasks and making them achievable, and having a sense of accountability helps. Having an accountability buddy or partner, I find, kind of keeps you on track a little bit, doesn't it?
I used to work in a company that had a 150-year plan for one of the sites.
Wow.
So it's plenty of time and you'll get around to it. But I need it.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, so that was basically a quick whistle-stop tour of LinkedIn newsletters. Hopefully you've understood the importance of putting that content out there and how to do it. So the takeaway is, just go onto LinkedIn, go to articles, create that very first newsletter, flesh it out with some graphics, and just start seeing the results and seeing the engagement that you get as a result of it. Any further comments from yourselves?
Well, I've got a question, because you mentioned blogs as well.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering whether or not it's okay. I thought I had a blog page, but it turns out it's a web page with the word blog written on top and nothing out underneath it's been optimized. So it didn't count. I've only recently found that out, and I paid someone to do my website, so not too happy. But there are some articles there that I can repurpose and I can reshape and make more relevant. Is it okay to, once I get a proper blog page, to post it on the blog page and into a LinkedIn newsletter?
Yeah, because it's a completely
same copy.
Yeah, I would say it's probably a slightly different audience. The people that are coming to your blog are probably from organic Google searches,
right?
And maybe the odd prospect who's kind of at that consider stage on your website, and you just want a bit more information. So I think when it's great that you can repurpose that content and put it out there on LinkedIn, because if you've got a couple of those already written, ready to go, that's a few months that you don't need to worry about.
I've got 10 or 15 blogs on there that I can really recycle.
Brilliant. Repurpose it. Just make sure it's all still current. Think about the headlines. Think about the structure of the content. Make sure it's easily readable. And then don't forget the call to action on all of those blog pages. What's the next step you want people to do? Is it always to book a strategy call or a follow-up call, or is it to kind of download a free ebook? think about what you want them to do.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and it is with the LinkedIn newsletter, it's just that engagement bit, because you'll get a lot of people that will comment, and if you can comment back and challenge people and encourage them, or whatever your approach is with that, that will really help as well. But yeah, definitely repurpose the content.
Good.
Martin, I've just seen you had a bit in chat. I've clicked on that. I'll have a look later. I presume that is up to your website.
What are you looking at?
You put something in the chat box.
Yeah, that's the hashtag depreciation article.
Aha,
Yeah.
That's from a guy called Mark Williams, who I met many years ago. Very nice, highly knowledgeable LinkedIn bloke.
Right.
Excellent.
But that's for later.
September, yeah.
So on the basis of me pulling my finger out, what do you do, Martin?
So it's funny you should say that. I was at a impactful communication workshop last Tuesday, and aligned with many other workshops, people say, "Oh, well, I'm a coach," and everyone goes, "Oh God, coach." So I like now to say, "How's your breathing?" And have a conversation, and then tell you what I do after we've done some stuff. So bottom line is, I'm a resilience coach. I help people deliver their best work every day without burning out.
Good, excellent. Yeah. Have you heard of a guy called John Hotowka? Hotowka. Have a search for him. He's his resilience. He's a magician as well, so he does keynotes. He does stuff. So anyway, another linking together what people in the same field. You know, you instead of competing, you know, you can nudge up against and.
Well, I've often thought about some of the magic tricks to use as a good metaphor for building resilience as well, and the fact you have choice will do you.
Good. Where are you based, Martin?
Just outside Basel, Switzerland.
Oh, right. I don't know why I was assuming it was all UK, but you're in Switzerland. Lovely, very nice.
Well, I lived in the UK until 2008. Moved over from North Hertfordshire.
Very good. Excellent.
Letchworth area, if you know
it. A bit, but not massively. Yeah, I'm down in Dorset, and most of my life I've been up in Cheshire and
very nice.
in the nuclear industry. And Alex is Dorchester way.
Dorchester, yeah. Just up the road.
Worth 6X, is that down there, isn't it? Is that the Dorchester Brewery, Wadworth's?
Well, the brewery's all gone now.
Yeah,
years ago, it was quite a renowned.
I had a tour there, and they were at the time they were the only UK brewery still using wooden barrels.
Wow, yeah, it's now called Brewery Square, and it's basically a modern development of commercial restaurants and cinema and all sorts
and everything. Yeah, it's a shame.
But I remember one of my earliest jobs as a young man. I was a mobile security guard, and I was deployed to that brewery site when it was still about as just as a guard on the gate.
Wow.
I did a couple of shifts, night shifts there. I remember. I think that was as they were winding it up.
I was born just down the road from it, and as a little lad, we'd walk past into town, and it sometimes used to stink of the hop. It was like, but, yeah.
Oh well.
Small world and a little connection.
Right, I'll just do a quick plug. I know, Martin, you're probably on the school group. Yes. Gary, have you joined the school community yet?
No, and this is why my misunderstanding, when we were talking earlier, it's a 12-week program, and somehow you've been sending me emails, I've joined it late in the day, so I'll restart.
Yeah. So basically, if obviously all this lead gen information and stuff is of interest to you, we're putting together this community where people can chat about the techniques, chat about their business, what they're up to. We've got 68 members at the moment. Within the community. Free members have got access to limited content. You can access all the back repository of the lead generation masterclasses that we've done. So all those previous sessions are in there. And then you can also get access to stage 1 and stage 2, which is about targeting your audience and also updating your LinkedIn profile so it makes sense. And then the other stages will be locked up until you become a paid client. But yeah, there's a calendar, so all the lead gen masterclass emails often come from the back of this system as well. So as soon as you're part of this community, you'll get extra reminders the day before from school. Right. So to join, it's just leadeth.io/school. I'll pop a link in the chat so you can join that there. Leadeth.io/school. And if you want to join us all, yeah, keep us posted on your, what you're working on, stuff like that. So that's that. Next week, let's just have a look what we're doing next week. So next week we're looking at, I'm just going to bring up my website so I can see, leadeth.io/masterclass. We'll be into week 12, how to delegate your LinkedIn lead generation. So if you're growing and you're actually getting some really good results from LinkedIn, we look at, what's the next stage in terms of getting someone on board to kind of do some of that work for you. So we explore how to do that, the pros and cons of doing it yourself versus getting someone else to do it for you. So yeah, feel free to hop on next week, Tuesday, 9 a.m.
Will do. Yeah. Before you go, another thing's occurred to me about this newsletter. I see people invite me to subscribe to their newsletter, and quite a lot of the time I go, yeah, okay, and I don't often see very much, so it doesn't fill my feed up with too much stuff. But do you invite others to your newsletter, or you just post out, I've got, hey, newsletter released today, go here to read it?
Yeah, so I think you can invite people from your first degree network. So there's an option to share it, and you can share it as a message to individual people. So yeah, LinkedIn is doing all the work in terms of getting people to it. So every time you create a new edition of that newsletter, then it promotes it to who it feels is it's going to be most relevant to. Automatically, and that's the importance of keywords.
Oh, so they do a little filter as well, do they?
Yeah. So they, I think LinkedIn are doing all the work in terms of pushing that out where it needs to be seen. Okay. And obviously, people naturally searching on the keywords, that will kind of come up as a newsletter article or.
It's keywords again, isn't it? Keywords.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. It's what what unites the information. Yeah.
All right.
It's a good exercise. I recently went into ChatGPT and got it to suggest 3 trending keywords that would be relevant for my business, and gave it a bit of a context of what the business was about. So now I'll make sure I always include those 5 keywords on any relevant posts or any kind of newsletters. Make sure that gets included.
Right.
Which just helps with everything you do. Yeah. Yeah, but
that's an interesting. Yeah, okay. I use chat for a few things, and that's every time I speak to someone, they go, "Oh, you could try this." Well, its use is kind of limited by your imagination, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with the paid version, there's so many plugins coming in for it now, which plug into other systems and other websites and other big data resources. And obviously, there's a plugin, Engage AI, which taps into LinkedIn. So you can basically ask it live questions about LinkedIn, like, what posts are currently trending on LinkedIn for whatever it is, resilience, and boom, it will tell you the top keywords and things. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with it. Yeah, a lot of data there to digest and play around with.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll just have a quick check on the live stream, make sure there's no unanswered questions on there.
So Alex, you've potentially got people watching in a different way.
Yes, yeah. So we've got there's only a couple of people, it says, watching at the moment on the LinkedIn live, and then there's it goes out to YouTube as well. So if anyone's on YouTube, they could be watching this as well. So I've just got to monitor the comments and click to join live. That's where I start to hear myself. And I'll get a bit of an audio feedback loop if I go into it now, my end, but just waiting for it to come up. Internet's sluggishly slow for some reason. Yeah, so apologies if you've put a cut. I'll catch up after this live, and if you put any comments. But thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so that's all from me. Have a great week, rest of your week, and yeah, hopefully see you on next week when we're discussing the delegation aspect.
I'll see you next week, and hopefully have my LinkedIn updated as well, because that's way out of date.
I'll look out for your newsletters.
He's been inundated. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Nice to meet you, Martin. See you, Alex. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.